So is this balanced? Feels a little uncomfortable, doesn't it? Maybe like it's out of balance? We changed a few things. Is this balanced? Well, it feels better. So why does it feel one way or another way? What's going on? Well, let's take a look at some principles of design and try to figure it out. Now, if you purchased the optional book, Picture This, How Pictures Work, Molly Bang provides some principles of design around page 42 or so. She says that smooth, flat, horizontal shapes give a sense of stability and calm. Well, we don't have any smooth, flat, horizontal shapes in the image that's out of balance, but we do have them in the image that feels like it may be in balance. All right, so that's one possibility. She says that vertical shapes are exciting and active. Vertical shapes rebel against the Earth's gravity. Well, we do have vertical shapes in the one that is out of balance. The one that's in balance, though, also has some, so that may not be the cause. So let's check the next rule. Diagonal shapes are dynamic because they imply motion or tension. Well, here we go. There aren't a whole lot of diagonal shapes in the balanced image. But even here, we're lacking horizontal shapes. We've got a lot more diagonal shapes, so that could be lending to it quite a bit as well. If we move over, she says that a triangle placed on its flat base gives a feeling of stability. Well, we've accomplished that in both of these, so probably not that. She says that the upper half of the picture is a place of triumph, the freedom and happiness. It's spiritual. In other words, it's lighter. Oh, okay. So we have stuff being pushed into the lighter area, but we also have the opposite. So what does she have to say about that? Images placed in the bottom half feel heavier. Oh, okay. So if we cut this in half, we can see that we've got some objects being pushed up, so they must be lighter. We have objects being pulled down. That must be heavier. Now, this works off of her concept of gravity. There's an idea that we always feel as though there is gravity in existence in the image, so things are constantly being pulled down. She says that the center of the page is the most effective center of attention, and it has the point of greatest attraction. All right. We don't have anything really in there, maybe the triangle, but that's towards the bottom. The exact middle is empty, so our eyes will have to seek something else. So we've already got motion. Now we have that in both of these, but here it's about even on either side. Except, is it really even? Well, we have about the same amount of black as white in each side. It's just that it's smooshed together here and it's spread out there. In other words, there's I should say black to white, black being this stuff that we painted on, white just being these background elements. We've put all the black really close together on this side, and then we spread it out on the other side. So again, it should feel a little bit lighter. She even says that white backgrounds feel safer than dark, and she will go and say that we feel more secure looking at rounded shapes than and curves than we do pointy shapes. So maybe we've got balance within these objects themselves. These are darker, so they should feel less secure, but they're rounded. These are lighter, so they should feel more secure, but they're also pointy, so that may be balancing it out a bit. Now, she also says that the larger an object is, the stronger it feels. So that's interesting. We could say that these should feel stronger, and sure enough, this is a smaller one. But is strength and weakness really part of balance? I mean, it can be, but not necessarily in this case. And then she also says that we will associate similar colors much more strongly than similar shapes. So maybe it's a good thing that we have all of the squares are light, all of the circles are dark, and this triangle is its own color altogether, this gray. She says that we also notice contrast, or to put it another way, contrast enables us to see. Well, that may apply a bit. We've got dark to light going in. So that may have something to do with it. In this case, I would argue that the balance shape has a few things going on. We have psychological understanding of a seesaw or a teeter-totter. These scales are something that we play with a lot as children. It's something we see throughout our day-to-day life. So if we see one that's tipping, well, clearly it's not balanced, right? This is perhaps one of the simplest shapes you can build to have that happen. If something is slanted, and again, this comes off the idea that we've got gravity in this picture world, even though it may not really exist in any way whatsoever, it's psychologically there. So we've got that going on. On the unbalanced one, we have this stack of objects trying desperately to somehow outweigh these dark objects. And the dark ones do feel heavier and they're lower down. But these light objects, worst of all, they're being piled higher and higher. So they must be lighter in order to go that high. And they're not even stacked that well. Look at this. This is angled over. Oh, it's bad in all sorts of ways. Whereas this one, this must be heavy. It's slanted. There's motion to it, but it's also balanced on top of these two smaller ones. And we know that these are two smaller ones because we can see one by itself. So we've got some shapes there. This is flat. I feel that's the most important piece. There is a triangle, which inherently feels out of balance at the tip, but we have something on it and it's not at an angle. So clearly it must be in balance. There are some other tricks going on. It may be useful to have some more boxes on this side simply because there's so much white involved in these boxes, so they feel lighter. Those are the cues that we have, essentially, their position and their color and their shape. So using that, we could start to feel as though this is balanced and that this is out of balance. But what trumps everything is context. I showed you something and I said, this feels out of balance. So it starts to feel out of balance. But then I showed you another version of essentially the same objects rearranged. Now you have something to compare it to. Had I only ever shown you this one, it may not have felt as balanced. Having something to contrast it to, this knowledge that there could in fact be one that is less in balance than the other one, makes one feel more balanced just from that, from comparison, that context. So that's important as well. Now, with abstract, there could be less context. Now, as you move into visual elements that have strong symbolism to it, for example, if you drew a blue raindrop, we'd probably associate that with water. That's just how it goes. If you drew a red fire shape, we'd probably associate that with fire. Let me show you what I mean real quick. If we looked at these, we would just assume that someone was trying to say water and fire, even if it was as crude as this. That's essentially symbolism. Now, as you tumble into or purposely move towards symbolism, you'll be moving away from abstract. On one side, you'll have iconography, and on the other side, you'll have the lack of iconography. So if you start ending up with things that are drawn in with great purpose, you've probably moved away from the abstract realm. So do watch out for that. So we can apply principles of design to pieces that exist and try to figure out how things work, even if we just grab a list of principles essentially at random. So let me give you some principles of design now that you can hopefully apply to your piece and try to figure out if it's in balance or out of balance. You can keep in mind another way of determining if something is in or out of balance is step away from it for a while. Get a glass of water, look outside, stretch, do something other than looking at the same image you've been looking at for maybe an hour or more, and look at it with fresh eyes. You'd be surprised at the change it can make. So let's go ahead and look at what some principles of design are in the next video.